3 News Now this week.
Now, the emerald ash borer, a beetle that lives off ash species, has killed thousands of ash trees in Omaha. 3 News Now reporter Ariana Martinez found out what happens next for the tree population in the city.
We want to make sure that we get something down so that the whole neighborhood does not become tree barren.
The Trendwood neighborhood in Omaha has about 600 ash trees. And on this street in particular, one of the residents told me that these trees were planted back in the 60s to make the neighborhood a little bit more inviting. But unfortunately, due to a beetle that's killing ash trees like these, soon all of them will need to be removed. Unhealthy trees can become a hazard. Branches fall off, or the trees themselves can fall and do a lot of damage with how massive most of them are. So the city of Omaha has began removing some trees.
Just the trees that we manage ourselves through the Parks and Rec Department, upwards of 15,000 across the city. That isn't counting private trees. And so we're at the point now approaching about half of those being removed and addressed.
With help from the Target Corporation through the Arbor Day Foundation, about 120 trees will be donated and planted in the Trendwood neighborhood. Residents were able to help select the kinds of trees that will be planted on May 8th.
Raises pride of place, right? And so we show them what the red oaks look like in the fall. We show them the catalpas in the spring and the flowers that bloom from them. And then we plant bur oaks and we plant swamp white oaks, royal raindrop crabs, the red sunset maples. So it's a good diversity of trees that are still tall shade trees so that you get a boulevard look by the time they grow.
The city has also chosen to plant a variety of trees across the city.
So in case there is ever a issue like this again that attacks one species of tree, it isn't the dominant or predominant species that is in our community where we have this kind of same outcome, and we see a number that, like I just mentioned, in the thousands having to be removed at one time.
Ariana Martinez, 3 News Now.
Landlords across the country have started the eviction process early, despite an active federal moratorium due to the pandemic. One Omaha family says they are up to date on rent, yet their landlord, William Stanek, is not renewing their lease and is evicting them. 3 News Now reporter Kent Lutzen was in the courtroom when the judge finalized the paperwork and has more on their situation. Kent?
Good morning, Jenny. For the last 2 weeks, we've shined a light on the loophole Omaha landlord William Stanek is using to continue evicting tenants from his apartment building on Jones Street. Instead of evicting a tenant because of unpaid rent, which is not allowed, Stanek is removing renters because their leases were up and he decided not to renew them. Now, his latest victim, Mary Miller, and her family were in this loophole. They're caught in this loophole with the eviction finalized on Tuesday in the courtroom. Stanek gave Miller a 30-day notice to leave after she made complaints to the city about the condition of the apartment. Also, now you can see in these pictures some of those complaints. Now there's water damage, leaking ceilings, holes in the walls, missing smoke and carbon monoxide detectors, as well as doors that were never installed or not installed properly. The difference in this case compared to others we've shared is the Miller family is current on their rent. That's according to Legal Aid of Nebraska attorneys. The family wants to stay and pay rent as they have no other place to go if evicted. Now, in fear of not being able to find other housing, the family chose not to be on camera during their interview, but here's a portion of what they had to say.
The back door wasn't even on. I had to put that on myself because we had the door kicked in 6 times because the door was so weak.
First time we moved in, got kicked in.
And I'm just lucky I was there, to shoo them back out of there. The mice there are so bad that we have caught over, 50 mice since we've lived there.
The bugs are nasty too. They're terrible.
Too, It's just terrible. It bugs everywhere. I mean, we can't get rid of them. I mean, we tried everything and we just can't get rid of them.
I asked why they chose to live in the apartment if the conditions were so rough, but something we have to realize is that, Miller says the landlord accepts general assistance, and the pair were trying to get back on their feet after one of them was left disabled right before the pandemic hit. Now, again, we reached out to Mr. Stanek, and he has not returned our phone calls. Chief City Housing Inspector Scott Lane says 9 out of the 12 apartments in Stanek's building currently have an open violation case. In the newsroom, Kent Lutzen, 3 News Now.
We're still learning more about the shooting that occurred yesterday afternoon at Westroads Mall. The Omaha Police Department has identified the officer who was injured and the suspect who is now facing charges. 3 News Now reporter Jessica Edson joins us with more details.
The Omaha Police Department has released a detailed account of what happened here last night. They say Officer Jeffrey Wittstruck was struck 4 times during an altercation that began when he and another officer responded to a shoplifting here at JCPenney's. The suspect, who police say is 21-year-old Kenya Jenkins, was detained by security for allegedly putting a pack of t-shirts in his backpack. When the officers arrived on scene, Wittstruck asked Jenkins to remove his backpack, but the man instead allegedly placed a hand in his sweatshirt. Police say based on body cam footage, the officer told the man to show his hands and attempted to arrest him. During an altercation, Wittstruck deployed his taser, which was ineffective. Jenkins then allegedly pulled a gun from his sweatshirt and fired 4 times, hitting the officer in his face and the top of his head. Police say the suspect was caught on camera fleeing the mall and was later spotted near Gretna driving at speeds of over 140 miles an hour. The Nebraska State Patrol was able to deploy stop sticks and take Jenkins in. A firearm was found in the vehicle. Jenkins faces charges of attempted first-degree murder and using a weapon to commit a felony. Wittstruck was able to receive aid here on scene, but was later taken to Nebraska Medicine in critical condition. We're told today that he is stable and recovering. Reporting in Omaha, Jessica Edson, 3 News Now.
Officer Wittstruck has been with OPD since 2016. Today, Chief Todd Schmatter said he appreciated the support from the community and that our prayers are with Officer Wittstruck and his family for a full recovery. On behalf of all Omaha police officers, thank you for the showing of support and concern. Omaha police officers answered 911 calls over and over again throughout the day to keep Omaha safe. It is important to remember the dangers officers put themselves in each and every call, calls that must be answered because someone was in need. Brookfield Properties is the agency who owns the Westroads Mall. Their public relations director, Lindsay Cann, sent a statement about the shooting. We are disheartened by the senseless incident that happened last night in our tenant's space. Our thoughts are with the officer and his family, and we wish him a smooth recovery. We are thankful to our security team and our partners at the Omaha Police Department. There is nothing more important than the safety and well-being of our shopping center community.
We have an update tonight. Officer Jeff Wittstruck, who was shot last week trying to stop an alleged shoplifter at Westroads Mall, is now back home. Wittstruck was shot in the face and the top of the head. Investigators say the suspect, Kenya Jenkins, fired 4 shots before fleeing. A short time later, Jenkins was caught after a high-speed chase of up to 140 miles per hour.
Extremely serious charges. I don't think he has much ties to this community, so I think a $10 million bond's appropriate. We agree with the judge.
County Attorney Don Klein was relieved of the $10 million bond for 21-year-old Kenya Jenkins, who said a little in his first court appearance Monday. Jenkins has 3 charges, the most serious being first-degree assault on an officer. Klein said his team deliberated between that charge and attempted murder, but settled with the assault charge because it carries a higher minimum sentence of at least 3 years.
So we were looking for the highest penalty that we could get in on this particular case, and so that's why we charged it the way we did.
This all stems from the shooting Friday, in which Omaha police say Officer Jeffrey Wittstruck questioned Jenkins for stealing a $30 bag of shirts. At some point, it became violent, with Jenkins shooting Wittstruck in the face and top of the head before fleeing the mall and the city. Eventually, police stopped his white BMW in Lancaster County and arrested him. Wittstruck was sent to the hospital and is now stable. Monday, we learned that Jenkins is not from Omaha, with authorities believing he is likely from the Chicago area.
We've made some query about his history, but it seems like he's been moving around to some extent, and so we're not sure.
Now, last year, St. Patrick's Day celebrations were canceled as we were just entering the pandemic. Now that we know more about the virus and vaccines being distributed, many are deciding to go out and celebrate tonight. 3 News Now reporter Jessica Edson shows us what it looked like today.
Across the city, bars and pubs are decked out in green to celebrate all things Irish.
Very Irish. A lot of my friends are also very Irish, so just out celebrating and kind of a good, girls' day, especially with everything going on.
And some are bringing their own culture into the holiday.
Everybody does corned beef, so we decided we're going to do a Puerto Rican twist. This is a more traditional for us, a very celebrated, a very holiday-specific meal.
Irish or not, people are excited to celebrate after last year's festivities were some of the first to be canceled because of COVID.
This year it's even better because we weren't able to celebrate last year.
While the CDC and Douglas County Health Department are advising against celebrating in public this year, bars in Nebraska are able to operate at 100% capacity.
We all work in healthcare, so we've been vaccinated, but we are following like the wear your mask inside, sanitize. So I mean, it is a worry, but at the same time, we're just excited that there's something going on.
A mask mandate is still in place in the city, but people are not required to wear one when eating or drinking. You also don't have to wear one if you're outside, like at the patios of Annie's Irish Pub or Alderman's.
St. Patrick's Day is, whether you're Irish or not, it's just a good day to hang out with your friends and celebrate life, and I think that's all we're really doing, especially since we've all had a really tough time last year.
Reporting in Omaha, Jessica Edson, 3 News Now.
There is a head poking out, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm really doing this.
Just steps away from the hospital doors, Brian Caballar and Nicole Rollo were delivering their baby girl in the parking garage of Nebraska Medical Center.
I told them, I don't think I'm gonna make it. She's coming out now, so I kind of just got down on the ground, and it just happened so fast between when we arrived there and when she was actually born.
With 911 on the phone and his wife on the asphalt, Brian found himself playing supportive husband and doctor.
As soon as I put the phone down, I was playing catch, and Astrid shot out, and I caught her just in time. And at that point, I didn't know what to do.
But the couple was not alone. A Nebraska medical staff member happened to pass by, quickly offering support and wrapping baby Astrid in her cardigan sweater until an ambulance arrived.
She just looked like an angel. She was so beautiful, covered in, all the liquids and whatnot, but she was beautiful.
With a thick head of hair, Astrid joins the world with quite the story, one her parents will never let her live down.
It's definitely not your ideal birth, but maybe grabbing some towels before laying on the ground would have been great.
Nicole says she and Astrid are doing well and are expected to leave the hospital soon. In Omaha, Kent Lutzen, 3 News Now.
From unique ideas to provide food, to jobs, to community murals and art programs, Omaha community grants are once again available.
We just felt like it was really important this year to make them somehow COVID related. For example, there's a lot of people struggling with food right now. And if it has something to do, say, with a community garden, say they want to build a community garden and produce food and help people with food, well, that's an option that we certainly will consider.
When applying for the grants, it's up to you and your creativity how you can best improve your community and help it rebound from COVID.
Dig around the plant.
In the past, the grants have always had a theme, but the underlying requirement has remained consistent. Improve your neighborhood in some way.
The application process was super simple, really easy to understand, and really recommend anyone considering or in a neighborhood apply because it's a really great and easy process, especially if you're kind of a first-time person or organization applying for a grant.
More than $100,000 in grant money is available.
I love that it's like something that all organizations of different levels can apply for. I think it's really cool that there's not a requirement that you're a big nonprofit organization.
These are always fun for me to give because sometimes they're little projects, sometimes they're bigger projects.
Up to $5,000 can be awarded to each organization.
And we spoke with the mayor about this topic a few weeks ago. Well, the deadline to apply is March 15th. Your business or organization has to be listed in the city's neighborhood directory, which is easy and free to do. You can go to the mayor's office website to apply.
I am here in downtown Omaha in the Capital District. A new business is opening its doors this week, just as vaccinations are increasing. 12th and Capitol has a new neighbor, Akaru Japanese restaurant. But the opening had to be delayed because of the pandemic, a delay in construction, and a delayed opening.
We've been holding about 6 months before doing anything to this restaurant to start. But it seems pandemic comes, so we have to be cautious. We don't want that to happen, but it seems happens now. But we have to be cautious with sanitizing. Constantly comes out, sanitize the area, the lobbies, door handles, restaurants, tables, chairs, any that people can touch too.
Each section is cleaned after people leave and before a new group can sit down. As springtime is approaching and we are coming out of our darkest days of the pandemic, restaurants are hoping for an uptick in business.
We are really excited for the warm weather started, and then people is more coming out, walking the street. And also, I really love this Capital District area. It's a little more entertaining around here. Also, it's a lot of different events going on.
With the CHI Health Center once again open for events, and this restaurant being located just down the street, they are hoping their proximity, grand opening with unique offerings will also help increase business.
Spicy chicken cashew ramen.
People come in for the ramen, which is Japanese noodle soup, and leave with the boba tea. Neighbors say the warmer weather and loosening restrictions has them feeling more comfortable heading out to dine in.
We watched it, grow from, the start, just from the beginning. And it's nice to see them finally open and be able to come in, witness their grand opening. As well as my DGO says my favorite, so I have to come here. I need to get it every time.
Customers say the unique artwork and being able to build your own meal is a nice change from eating at home.
Being able to build my own poke bowl, I'm able to choose exactly the base that I want. I like the sushi rice. And then any combination of meats that I want. I like to get the seared tuna or spicy tuna. And that's raw, and it's one of my favorites. And then you also get to choose the different toppings.
The sun is shining and it's warm outside, but our wintertime igloos are still here. Well, that's because Capital District representatives say they've been so wildly popular, they're going to keep them around for another month or two. In Omaha, Danielle Davis, 3 News Now.
In an emotional press conference, Mayor Jean Stothert celebrated the life of her husband Joe, while also saying she's returning to work at City Hall and also her campaign for re-election.
I wish everyone had the chance to know him. And those who did know that he was an amazing man, husband, father, and grandfather.
As hard as it will be, Mayor Jean Stothert says it's time to continue her now unfamiliar life without her husband. Before she got to that, she says the community has stepped up to support her since the tragic death of her husband, Joe Stothert, a highly regarded trauma surgeon at Nebraska Medicine.
Your public comments, notes, calls, messages are helping all of us more than you can possibly imagine.
She did say the last year had been especially hard on Joe.
Lately, Joe had begun to change. Our family noticed it, and his work family noticed it. The past year had been very difficult for Joe. The questions that we have will never be fully answered. We know that, and we accept it.
But Mayor Stothert did flash a smile when she recalled happy times with Joe, saying he was always walking with her to knock doors and in the front row at town halls and speeches, even as recently as last month.
But he was always there, and he really did love what I do. And as I gave the State of the City a couple weeks ago, he was in the front row like he always was.
And now she is ready to slowly jump back in the saddle of managing the city and also convincing Omahans that she deserves 4 more years as mayor.
This is what Joe would have wanted, and this is what my kids want. He was so proud that I was mayor of Omaha.
In Omaha, John Kipper, 3 News Now.